बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद sir. Thank you and congratulations on resuming office, taking charge of a very crucial twin job that you have. I think chemical fertilizer as well as the renewable energy. It is an extremely important excitable times जिस टाइम पे आप ये डिपार्टमेंट को ले रहे हैं energy transition, the new roadmap of the way consumption of energy is going to take place, and renewables is going to play a very crucial role in this whole piece. I also take this opportunity to welcome the young dynamic officer Amitesh Sinha ji. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Obviously we have with us Vinit ji, the president of ASSOCHAM, and I mean, I have a host of other people from the solar energy and solar section of this renewable piece. So a very hearty, warm welcome to one and all. I think each one of you are in the most excitable times, and I'm sure you're going to write the history of this country as we go along, and maybe 10 years, 15 years down the line, when we look back, there'll be a different story to tell to everybody. Just to take a small piece, 2010.2 gigawatts. आज हम 35 गीगावाट की सोलर कैपेसिटी पे बैठे हैं, 17 is under construction, another 35 is under tender, with the target NDCs जो Paris Accord में किए हैं 450 गीगावाट के हैं, which में I think about a very large chunk, which is about 380, 280, 300 gigawatts is going to be renewables. I think it's a very major capacity addition that one is talking about. Atmanirbhar Bharat will only become true if we are able to manufacture and supply to this demand which is coming up of this 300 megawatts. And therefore, it is extremely important that India makes and builds its own capabilities to ensure the supply chain is taken care of. And I'm sure others will talk about it in a larger sense, so I'm not going to touch more on this. It is extremely important that we have end-to-end supply chain built, especially on the upstream segments that one is trying to talk about. So, Honorable Minister, Joint Secretary Amitesh ji, ASSOCHAM has constituted a group of people which obviously are here, but we also hired the services with our partners, which is Shakti Foundation and Arctis Advisors, and we are coming up with a study as to what needs to be done. There's been a lot of policy change, but there has always been a slip in the cup and the lip, and we have not been able to actually make that huge shift of this manufacturing. So this report is something that we are underway. This is work in progress. And the way we do it is that there are multiple meetings with all stakeholders. Everybody comes through. It is synthesized, and then we come forward. This is a consultative process where we will take your views, your inputs, and as we go along, maybe in another month's time, we will be able to freeze this report. And it's a working document for this, for the government, for ASSOCHAM, for its members, as to how we make this happen. And therefore, we will come to you, Honorable Minister and the Joint Secretary, repeatedly to get your inputs. With these few initial points, I would now request Vinit ji, President ASSOCHAM, to address us. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Shri Bhagwant Khuba ji, Honorable Minister for State and Renewable Energy, Shri Amitesh Sinha ji, Joint Secretary, Solar, MNRE. It's my pleasure, sir. Thank you for joining us today. Today's virtual meet on building an ecosystem for solar manufacturing in India is an important pillar for our ongoing summit on global value chains. Sir, as our country is moving up the value chain, it requires massive changes in not just our resolve, but also our approach. We would need to focus on ease of doing business in the areas of land, labor, logistics, energy, and capital. This will make our country competitive both in domestic and international markets. This is what will drive our journey towards greater value creation and hence accelerate our journey towards a $5 trillion economy. Sir, energy के area में जो demand बढ़ रहा है, both consumer और industry level पर, our needs would be to ensure energy security in this very troubled geopolitical situation in the world. We would also need to meet our long-term goals to the Paris Agreement and move rapidly towards renewable and green energy. The most important aspect would be to ensure the right pricing and predictability of energy availability. Sir, मैं एक छोटा सा उदाहरण लेना चाहता हूँ. मैं जिस इंडस्ट्री में हूँ, हमारे पास वेयर हाउसेज हैं कुछ जो कोल्ड चेन के हैं, जहाँ कोल्ड प्रोडक्ट्स रखते हैं। अब उस पर्टिकुलर वेयर हाउस में, क्योंकि हमारे को एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी नहीं है, इसीलिए हम एक जनरेटर रखे हैं ताकि कोई भी चीज़ फेल नहीं हो। लेकिन साइड बाय साइड उस जनरेटर का हमने एक बैकअप जनरेटर भी रखा है, क्योंकि जो कोल्ड चेन के प्रोडक्ट्स हैं उस पर्टिकुलर वेयरहाउस में, अगर आइसक्रीम है या कुछ दवाइयाँ हैं, अगर एनर्जी फेल होता है तो वो सब मटेरियल खराब हो जाएगा। इसीलिए ये प्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी नहीं है एनर्जी का, और इस प्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी के कारण हमारा जो कॉस्ट है ऑपरेशंस का वो बहुत बढ़ जाता है, और हमें एक रिडंडेंसी के ऊपर रिडंडेंसी बनाना पड़ता है ताकि हम अपने कस्टमर को ये अश्योर कर सके कि कभी भी अगर कोई फेलियर होगा तो हम उसका एक सोल्यूशन हमारे पास साथ साथ है। So this was an example, sir, I wanted to take, that it is very, very critical that if we want to succeed and be a competitive country, we need to build this factor of predictability and security in the minds of consumers. Our country's ambition to supplement our energy production through 450 gigawatts of renewable sources by 2030 will go a long way in building this energy security and stability. Government steps to promote renewable energy, and specifically the solar generation sector, is extremely progressive and very heartening. The several policies announced from PLI, BCD protection to ALMM will help to create the right ecosystem for cell and module manufacturers to create a fully integrated facility to service domestic demand and manage supply chain disruptions more efficiently. Clearly, this will also help in the country saving huge amounts of foreign currency, creating jobs, and ultimately we can also be an exporter and a factory to the world. As Deepak just mentioned, that we at ASSOCHAM will be undertaking this study and make this into a working paper so that we are able to engage with the government and industry to provide the right solution. So we hope to have valuable time from you in the future to have these discussions. Thank you so much for your time. Now I request Mr. Saurabh Singhal, Director, Octus Advisors, to present the findings that we have just made. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Viniji. Can the team make me the presenter, please? Let me start. I think it will take a minute or so for the rights to come in. But thank you, Mr. Sood and Viniji, very aptly put in terms of talking about the ecosystem. I think that is the key word here that we would like to focus upon. And very, very well put, Viniji, when you said that we need to change our resolve and approach. I think that's what we would like to talk about and discuss how, while there are elements that we have touched upon, how to create this ecosystem and how do we change our approach. So I have the rights. Let me just share the presentation. So let me jump right into it. I think the first and foremost part of the ecosystem, if we look at the way it is structured today globally, and it is, I think it is no secret, very clearly, we have China. Hello? Can you hear me, Kavita?
please?
Yeah. So very clearly, China is the dominant market today from a manufacturing standpoint, and so much so that if you look at the value chain of total solar manufacturing, starting from polysilicon all the way to module, China in polysilicon owns 84% of the manufacturing. In wafer, it actually owns almost 100% of manufacturing. Cell and modules are 85%, 76% respectively. More importantly and interestingly, if you look at the polysilicon and wafer markets, very few players, large players, they dominate it. Just 5 manufacturers make 80% of the market. So imagine global supply of polysilicon wafer. It is managed by 5 and 6 people respectively, and there are a couple of them who are actually doing both, right? So in the hands of a handful of people, possibly 8 to 10, we are relying for polysilicon wafer so far. Cell and module, although the capacity owned by China is 85%, 76%, we still have significant number of players there. But still, if you look at the total capacity of module, let's say 378 gigawatt per year, the total capacity itself is higher than the demand in the market. Last year we did 140. I think this year we are expecting to do 180 to 190. So, we have significant overcapacity on module and cell, and therefore clamor for supply. And at the same time, the two industries where we do not have any presence, which is polysilicon and wafer, is owned primarily by very, very few players. On cell, we still, I think, growing. We have 4 gigawatts, and in module, we are I think, way ahead. While we have 15 gigawatt manufacturing capacity in module, maybe tier 1 or the LMM list may be smaller than this, but we have the manufacturing capacity. Unfortunately, in polysilicon and wafer, we are lagging far behind, and this is where we talk about the ecosystem. Even in other ancillary products, in glass, encapsulation, backsheets, silver paste, aluminum frames, etc., we have very limited presence. And therefore, when we talk about solar manufacturing, it is important to understand what is required to be successful. Because if we focus on cells and modules only, and I'm not saying for 1 second that it is not critical, but if you focus on that only and do not create the ecosystem, it'll be very difficult. It'll become more and more difficult for cells and module manufacturers to deal with these, monopolistic, behavior of polysilicon and wafer manufacturers, especially when we see or when they notice that a significant capacity in India is coming up, right? And we will have challenges there. So it's important. I think I just want to highlight here that it's important to talk about ecosystem, important to talk about all the other elements as well. And like Mr. Sood said, we have government has taken laudable steps towards making sure at least we have some respite from a cell and module manufacturing. The LMM list, BCD, PLI scheme, very, very appreciated efforts and initiatives by the government. It's not going to be easy. I think the industry understands and appreciates the fact that it is not going to be easy. BCD, will face challenges. LMM is a great move by the government and great support given by the government to the industry. How we can make sure that it continues over the next few years is going to be critical. So while I think these initiatives by the government taken for the downstream manufacturing, the cells and modules, is very, very commendable. We need to look at what is required from the other parts of value chain as well. And even in these, I think, modules and cells, there are other areas which the industry will talk about in detail. I want to quickly move and talk about 3 or 4 things which we think are important from an approach standpoint, important from overall resolve standpoint. Now, therefore, we have put together a broad roadmap of what the industry should look like if we are talking about self-reliance. So self-reliance needs to be across various industries, right? Across modules, cells, wafer, polysilicon, glass, and other ancillary products. Today, if you look at 2021, while we are very good in module manufacturing in terms of capacity available, of course, the utilization is still low, which is what the government is trying to address. But on the other areas, we are extremely low, even from a capacity standpoint. And if you look at the plans that various manufacturing players have announced, we will possibly land up somewhere here in 2022. However, you can see clearly that by 2030, with the calculations we have done a detailed modeling of how it should look like in 2030, possibly in a more aggressive scenario. I think which should be, if we look at and focus our energies on creating this ecosystem today and start working towards it, we should be self-reliant from the perspective of modules, cells, glass, and other ancillary products by 2030. However, we feel it's going to be extremely difficult, even if we start today, looking at the picture, looking at the investments required, looking at the gestation period of the industry setup, construction period, looking at the possible growth rates of the industry. In wafer and polysilicon, we will still face a lot of challenges, even in 2030. Right? So I think this is something that we need to all possibly understand, that if we are talking about an ecosystem, we will be relying on China and possibly a few players in China. And there are players like GCL, Poly, who are present across the value chain in China. we will face problems in procuring cells and polysilicon and wafer from there. So I think this is one part that we need to understand to set the context that we need to start thinking about the entire value chain, including the upstream products, including ancillary products, to be able to make sure that by 2030 we are self-sufficient. If I look at the two major issues here when it comes to self-reliance, one is of course domestic demand, and Vinit spoke about predictability of energy, right? And I couldn't agree more. I'm saying there is, when you look at the industry, any industry, and I think industrialist will agree with me that predictability of demand is the primary driver. And today, I think a large part of the industry is facing that issue, that we don't have predictability of demand. These are especially polysilicon wafer and possibly the other ancillary products. These are capex heavy industries. So how do we ensure that there is demand? Now it's going to be a disappointment for us if the country is looking at 25 to 30 gigawatts of domestic installation, and we still do not have domestic players supplying to that demand. So I think that is one of the first issues which the government has very rightly tackled, at least for the short to medium term, by putting import barriers. There are challenges in terms of perception of quality of Indian manufacturers, especially from a bank side, which needs to be addressed. Let me come to the areas which I think where the focus needs to be now, which is basically making sure that on the long term, this industry is competitive. There are three parts to it. One is the upfront costs are competitive as compared to, let's say, China. The processing costs, ongoing operating costs are competitive. And then there are other enablers which have made China successful in this market. And I'm sure all of you know that there are countries who have tried to be self-reliant in terms of solar manufacturing. They've not been able to do that. So we've studied those models of what are the enablers they tried, what are the kinds of incentives they tried, and we've learned from those incentives and enablers to provide some preliminary thoughts. Today, I think it is what we would like to do is just highlight some of these areas and thoughts to kind of provoke the debate on these, rather than saying that this is what we need to do. I think that syndication with the industry and with the government, with your time, Honorable Minister, that will be done over the next month or so. But today, I would like to just highlight these issues and possibly just open it up for discussion with the industry and yourself on how we can address it. And one of the important parts of, let's say, from a competitiveness perspective, is the upfront cost. There is a large challenge between the costs that a Chinese manufacturer incurs by a Chinese equipment and an Indian manufacturer possibly incurs, right? So that is one of the major issues. The second is the input cost and electricity cost. In some cases, possibly the cost of natural gas is much higher than what we see in China. So that is the other part. We have a large dependence of on China for raw materials, and it is a part of the entire ecosystem, like I said. And then the last part is the R&D infrastructure, the thought process, our approach to R&D is concerned, right? And how are we ensuring that this industry possibly is going to evolve, change very quickly? And we've seen that over the last maybe a decade, right? The way costs have plummeted and the efficiencies have gone up. There's a rapid change in the technology. So how do we keep up with that change? Not just keep up. In fact, I think we need to think about how do we lead that change. And we have when it comes to R&D and research, we have possibly the most talented workforce in this country. They may be, diaspora across the world, but they're still, part and parcel of our fabric. And therefore, I think when it comes to skill, it is there. We need to just harness that skill, right? So I think that is the other part which we need to think about. So I think these are the major gaps. The barriers to imports, access to capital and technology, which is cost competitive, access to input, which is cost competitive, R&D thought process, and then making sure once we put the entire ecosystem together, then the raw material dependence will automatically go down. If I pick one of these or two or three of these major areas to talk about now, and then we can go into more discussion with the industry. I guess that it's an open secret right now that electricity costs are possibly much higher in India as compared to China. And just to give you a perspective, there are provinces in China where the electricity cost for the industry is rupees 2.2 per unit as compared to, let's say, in India, where possibly the average cost is upwards of 8 rupees, right? So if you look at, even if we were to keep everything same between India and China, all process efficiencies, all other costs same, we just look at the electricity cost, and we take an integrated player in India versus an integrated player in the US, the integrated player in India would be upwards of 30% more expensive than China, purely because our processing cost in terms of utility cost is higher than China, and several times higher than China. Right. So again, not something which is easy to tackle. I think there is going to be. I think the government is already making an effort to find regions where the electricity cost can be low. But yeah, one of the things that we have understood and the industry is very keen on is to see that at least the manufacturers of solar equipment have access to solar energy. Right. In many cases, even the manufacturers do not have access, 100% open access. And they cannot take 100% solar power to the extent that is possible in their process, demand pattern for the day. So at least to that extent, if the government can work with the state governments to ensure that there is an incentive provided, or there is a scheme provided where, the various manufacturers of solar equipment, they are able to access cheaper solar power to the extent that they can, right? So this is one part which is going to make it more competitive. From a cell and module standpoint, it is may not be as critical, although important still. But if we are to move into the entire ecosystem, polysilicon, wafer, and possibly a couple of other ancillary products, this is going to be a major cost driver. So I think we need to have a focus on this. The other part is, I think, which will be important from an R&D, from a sustainability of this industry, is the way we approach R&D. And this is an important, and I think what we are going to be talking about here is going to be thought-provoking. But if I just look at the way China has done research, the way US and some of the European countries have done research, there's a stark difference in the way they've approached this. And this is what we need to learn, possibly from China to a certain extent. They have focused their research on the commercialization of research, not research for the sake of it. And what we've seen is, I think US and Germany is largely focused on funding research institutes to come out with various technologies, may not be completely commercializable, or may not have actually closed the loop. So how does the industry and government and the institutes, research institutes, work together to make this work? I think this is one learning that we have. Second thing that we've seen is that China has worked more around a larger framework to make sure that there's a national strategy on how to reduce, how to increase efficiency. So they have put these cost and efficiency targets, which have been very aggressive. They've worked, as a nation, they have worked towards it, not in pockets. And the third part that we've seen, which is very interesting, is that they have attracted their own nationals from various parts of the world to come and work with the solar industry by way of interesting incentive mechanisms. And therefore, again, created that workforce, that horsepower of research by way of their own people. They've come back to the country. They've actually got their colleagues who are working with them back to China to execute research. So if I look at these things, one of the interesting ways to think about research, I think, for the government is to see how we can fund innovative, and we've seen the startup culture in the country. And the moment we feel that the government has enabled to a certain extent that startup culture, we can see the mushrooming and the spirit of the startup that is there in the country. And we have a lot of this research talent around the country. So if we can set up a fund as a consortium between the government and the industry, right? Where kind of a consortium where a small fund is identified, and that fund identifies projects which are commercializable, which are found in tandem with the industry, with a common board of the government and the industry, and then fund these projects to the extent of maybe $200,000, $250,000 to come up with pilots, to come up with the research that's going to impact the industry. That will be interesting. One of the models that we've seen, which is working very well in the US, is this Duramat model, where they've set up a $30 million fund, and I think they have released for the first 3 years $5 million, and the next 3 years another $5 million, which is working on this model, and it's working very well. And it's promoting that research which can be commercialized. I think the focus needs to be on that. And then the other part is how do we attract these the research that has already been done in various parts of the world. This kind of a setup, a collaboration, a consortium that we're talking about could possibly attract the research that has already been done in various institutes and help them, kind of set foot in India, work with the industry, possibly produce pilots and move forward. I think.
Saurabh, I'm sorry interjecting. You have 3 more slides. In the interest of time, I'm going to show you the flag right now.
Thank you, Mr. Sood. So I'll move quickly. I think this is one of the important parts I want to talk about. And then the second thing, or possibly the third thing, is when we were talking about equipment. We've seen globally the companies are moving their manufacturing base to China. We need to be able to project India as, and we are saying this across the board, right? Not just solar manufacturing, but here we are talking about the equipment that is used to manufacture polysilicon wafer, and cells and modules. That equipment industry is moving towards China. So one, we have a disadvantage because, there are language barriers with Chinese equipment. There are, a lot of service issues with Chinese equipment. So it's not easy for a manufacturer to take that decision whether to go for a Chinese equipment versus the European equipment. Not, notwithstanding the fact that European equipment is going to be 30% more expensive or 40% more expensive. So what we're suggesting is this roadmap that we are talking about. One, if we can the government can adopt a roadmap, publish it, make it public that we want to move towards this large manufacturing base, and therefore help these global manufacturers to maybe set up shop in India, but at least offer beneficial terms to the industry. Second, I think it's worth considering that if Chinese equipment is cheap, and if there is a possibility to collaborate with them maybe and have them set up shops in India with a small stake, that is something that we can also think about to make sure that our costs of manufacturing comes down. For the ancillary industries, like I said, like electricity, for glass, natural gas cost is high. So if we can bring down the natural gas cost, there a large competitor is Malaysia, and therefore there is a challenge there. We need to have this entire ancillary industry is basically going to work on scale, and the biggest thing that they are missing today is demand. And if we can provide some non-tariff barriers to this ancillary industry for some time to provide the scale that they need, right, without hurting the overall industry. And then, and with these economies of scale, I think we can possibly bring down the cost. There are other areas like for silver paste, if we can explore through the R&D mechanism that we are talking about, other things like copper paste, etc. Those could be useful. Finally, before I stop, I think we spoke about, and I think Mr. Sood spoke about the slip between the cup and the lip, and that is something that is going to be critical in this industry. If we are to look at this ecosystem and develop this ecosystem, it is important that we set up a focused task force which works across various government departments to make all these things happen. And there are several others. I'm sure industry will come up with several other challenges and suggestions. So if we can put together a task force under MNRE, which focuses on this, one from the industry standpoint, other from the government standpoint, right? And then creates that roadmap, manages the roadmap, monitors the progress, sees what industries are coming up, what are the challenges they are facing, and then every 6 months maybe have a large kind of a meeting to understand where we are. If we can do that, I think that will be a great step in this in creating that ecosystem. So that is those are the few things that we wanted to discuss. Like Mr. Sood said, we are working towards creating this more detailed report where you will see a lot of these discussions in more detail. We want to syndicate with the industry also. We've heard from the industry, several players in the industry. We want to go back and syndicate and finally also discuss with you, Honorable Minister and Amit ji, and it'll be a great discussion paper going forward. Thank you so much for the time, Mr. Sood.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you very much. I think this is a good start. This is a discussion paper. A lot of things are obviously being done. It's just that putting these two things together. With this, I would now like to invite Amitesh to address us. Feel free to share your views on the report. We are completely okay to receive your feedback and obviously make amends and changes. What the aspiration is to make this a working document. Thank you, Amitesh ji. Over to you.
धन्यवाद. नमस्कार माननीय मंत्री जी. दीपक जी, उपस्थित श्रोता और वक्तागण. Saurabh ji has made a very good presentation, and he has highlighted all the issues which is concerning to this solar PV manufacturing ecosystem. So I want to just address few points. I'll not try to repeat whatever the points he have already made. That on the part of visibility, demand visibility, so India has a clear roadmap, and we all know that Honorable Prime Minister has also announced on this 15th August that India will be achieving 450 gigawatt by 2030, and most of it will be coming from solar energy. So if we consider that thing, if we consider 300 gigawatt by 2030, then approximately 25 gigawatt every year at least we have to add to our installed capacity. And we all know that in solar industry, the overloading in terms of DC capacity is around 30 to 50%. So if we take 40%, the 25 gigawatt will become 35 gigawatt. So there is a clear roadmap for each and every stakeholders to understand and to react and to have their own planning. Apart from this, we are also moving towards green hydrogen ecosystem. And if we think, if we can add that capacity also, it will further increase by at least 5 gigawatt every year. So there is a clear visibility on demand side. And in long-term policy point of view also, it is quite clear that next year, next 10 years, this will be the demand. On supply side, now we are addressing the problem, how manufacturing equipments can be supplied and how India can become Atmanirbhar in this particular sector. So as Saurabh has said that we have limited capacity. So we MNRE consider that we have 9 gigawatt to 10 gigawatt of module capacity and around 3 gigawatt of solar cell capacity. And earlier efforts of MNRE was not very helpful. We experimented through MSIPs of Electronics Ministry. Then we introduced domestic content requirement through CPSU, rooftop and Kusum scheme. And then there was a manufacturing link tender, and LLM and safeguard duty was also in place. But these measures were not able to give confidence to manufacturers. Then we arrived, and now we have introduced basic custom duty with effect from 1st April 2022. As Saurabh ji and other participants have mentioned that there is a apprehension in BCD. But from our point of view, we are quite confident in that. And it will be implemented for a longer period so that there is a long-term visibility. ALLM we have introduced this year only. Earlier it was not very effective, but after issuing the list of module manufacturers, this has come into the practice, and it is giving a very good support to domestic manufacturing facilities. Now we have introduced PLI scheme, and PLI scheme I think a very great enabler. It has provisions for setting up a fully integrated plant from polysilicon to module. And I am quite confident that few players from India's side, they are offering complete value chain. And I don't want to take the name of those players, but we will be seeing after, as a response of this PLI, that fully from polysilicon to module, or so there is some other technology, then they are offering complete ecosystem. And there will be a lot of manufacturers who will be offering, who will be setting up integrated plants from wafer end got to module. So the capacity Saurabh has shown to all of us. I am quite confident that within 2 years and 2.5 years time, we will be having an additional capacity of 25 gigawatt solar cell, 25 gigawatt module, 15 gigawatt of wafers, and close to 10 gigawatts of polysilicon also. We are also planning to promote polysilicon and wafer because we understand that unless we have a total command on full ecosystem, India energy transition will not be a very smooth journey. And we also understand that this power cost and finance cost, these are the two main problem in this particular polysilicon wafer manufacturing. So we are trying to resolve this issue also, and we will try to facilitate renewable energy power also through open access and through other means directly to such a manufacturing units where polysilicon and wafer will be set up. So we will try to help industry in that way. As far as financing is concerned, I think we have very innovative ways, and we will be able to find out some solution, because in solar setup, the bids we are coming, we are seeing that lower and lower tariff is being offered by different developers, and that is happening because of finance cost. They are able to access cheap finance cost, and not only from Indian market, they are tapping foreign market. many foreign fund investors are coming to India. I'm quite sure that now they will turn their now they will start looking towards manufacturing sector also. And once they believe that India is going to become a manufacturing hub, lot of money will come in this sector also. So financing problem, I think it will be resolved. Though I know that at present there is a difference of 4 to 5% between China finance cost and the financing cost of Indian company, which they are able to take. In particularly quality aspect, there was a concern that our manufacturers are not able to supply quality module. So on that front, I will just tell you that all of the plants which is currently working, they were set up 3-4 years back, and at that time that was the trend. Now the all new capacity that I was talking, 25 gigawatt of solar module, all these capacities are coming with latest technology. All of them are 550 watt, 600 watt, 650 watt. Their efficiency of cells is also very good. So we will be getting a very quality kind of product in our Indian market, and we will not face any issue on the front of quality. However, the importance of R&D is very, very important, and the points raised by Saurabh is very valid, and we need support of ASSOCHAM also in this particular regard. And we expect a very good recommendation how to promote R&D in India. That is a concern. We have already planned something, and one way of attracting good technology is a scheme like PLI. So what we are doing, we are offering PLI on the basis of efficiency of solar cells and solar modules. So there, all the latest technology which are under installation or which is envisaged in next 2 years or 3 years, they are now coming to India. So somebody is coming with tandem cells, somebody is coming with heterojunction, somebody is coming with other kind of experiments, and this has also attracted investment in perovskite kind of thing also. So few companies have started looking to perovskite, which is not a commercial technology right now. So this has actually attracted talent and technologies from all over the world. We are seeing participation from USA company. Probably some other foreign manufacturers will also tie up with some of our Indian manufacturers, and they will participate. We have seen lot of interest from public sector companies also. So while NTPC is quite busy in participating in solar and wind development, there are a few companies like Coal India and BHEL. They are looking towards this manufacturing sector. So I am quite hopeful that in future they will also enter into the last area of polysilicon, and we have already heard the plan of Reliance Industry that they want to set a fully integrated plant, and we are in discussion with some more companies. They are also looking towards fully integrated plant facility in India. And whenever I'm interacting with them, I'm requesting them, please set up more polysilicon facility, that not only you are able to cater your need, you can also meet the requirement of other manufacturers who are just looking for cell and module. So that kind of effort we will take. But R&D has a great role in this. We can go for a solar bits with high efficiency also to promote such kind of technology. And then the industry academia collaboration which Saurabh was talking, we are looking towards that also, because the current form of R&D has not worked. We have provided funding to institutions, and whatever has been developed, it is lagging behind by 2 years or 3 years. So now we want to promote commercial oriented technologies where industry and academia both will offer their project, and on the basis of pre-declaration from government side that we want this particular thing, maybe efficiency or maybe technology or something like that. And that for that we will going for a grand challenge kind of thing. The suggestion of Saurabh is also well taken, that there should be a funding mechanism where government and industry can collaborate, and that fund can further support startups and many other things. This is also a very, very good suggestion, and we are working on that also. I think the study report of ASSOCHAM, which will highlight further details on how to promote R&D system in India, it will be quite helpful. One area which Saurabh has also mentioned, that we are not seeing any proposal for solar equipment manufacturing. So somebody is trying to set up manufacturing of polysilicon wafer ingots and cells and modules, but the machinery capital goods required for setting up these plants. So right now nobody is looking towards that, and I'm constantly pursuing very few industries to enter into that venture, and we will try to develop some kind of ecosystem which will facilitate this, because this is next to the radar of our ministry. So I think whatever is there, and the more advice we will be receiving from industry, we'll work on that, and we'll try to create a complete ecosystem. Now we are also targeting exports market, because our experience in wind manufacturing is quite encouraging. In wind manufacturing, we have more than our domestic requirement capacity. So roughly around 9 to 10 gigawatt manufacturing is happening in India, and the wind turbines are almost cheapest in the world. So, and we are seeing that all equipment manufacturers or the ancillary equipments companies, now they are shifting their base from outside India to India. As far as you are mentioning that a few industries are moving towards China for solar equipment manufacturing. So I'm quite confident that once we will achieve a scale of 25-30 gigawatt of manufacturing capacity in India, we will again see a lot of equipment manufacturers also coming to India. And when we are discussing with them, they are telling the same thing: you create a demand, you create a market, then we will follow. And all other balance of systems like EVA, backseat, junction box, these things are happening because the PLI scheme has been designed like this, which will encourage local value addition. And the moment you add a local EVA, local backsheet, and other equipments, your local value content increases, and accordingly your PLI amount also increases. So this is driving all small balance of system. For inverters, we have imposed basic custom duty, and a lot of manufacturing capacity is coming in inverters also. There are many companies who are looking for trackers, and they are setting large capacity of trackers in India. So I am quite confident that small capex based balance of material will come in India. So in solar glass also, when we are interacting, the Borosil company, which is an Indian company, is planning to enhance their manufacturing capacity from 2.5 gigawatt to 5 gigawatt. Now they are looking 10 gigawatt. And there are all other company we interacted. They clearly said that in coming future, we are also going to set up glass manufacturing capacity. So we are seeing whole ecosystem coming to India. We are quite hopeful, but we are looking towards more suggestions. And I thank ASSOCHAM for inviting me here. We will be collaborating further with the team of ASSOCHAM on various aspects. And I am looking forward toward the report of ASSOCHAM, particularly towards the R&D section. Thank you.
थैंक यू अमितेश जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका. आपने ऑलमोस्ट पूरी रिपोर्ट को मेमोराइज कर लिया है, पॉइंट बाय पॉइंट आपने कर लिया. सो थैंक यू वेरी मच. ही कम्स फ्रॉम द रेलवे सर्विसेज. That's very very nice. Thank you so much. Just एक चीज ऐड करना चाह रहा था कि ASSOCHAM ने is on the way preparing the hydrogen, green hydrogen roadmap as well. We've shared that report draft with you. So parallelly दोनों चीजों में काम चल रहा है. So we will be able to share that detailed report with you as also, because I think the solution lies in between. It's just not live in one. But that we're talking solar, so we're just discussing solar. So once again, thank you very much. माननीय मंत्री जी महोदय, आप मेरे कर्नाटका से आते हैं, मैं बैंगलोर से हूँ. So thank you very much. He comes from Bidar. एक टाइम पे बिदर का खाना बहुत स्वाद हुआ करता था, बहुत पहले जब पढ़ा करते थे वहां कभी तो खाया था. सो वेरी नाइस टू वेलकम यू हियर वंस मोर सर. थैंक यू वेरी मच एंड ओवर टू यू सर.
हाँ, दीपक जी और इस प्रोग्राम में जो पार्टिसिपेशन लिया है विनीत अग्रवाल जी और सौरभ जी ने तो काफ़ी डिटेल में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का इकोसिस्टम के लिए भारत के अंदर क्या करना चाहिए और सरकार का पॉलिसीज के अंदर क्या क्या बदलाव होना चाहिए, ये सारी चीज़ें बहुत ही माइन्यूट लेकर के उनका प्रेजेंटेशन था. Really, I'm impressed and I am appreciate to his in detailed presentation. और उतना ही जितना सौरभ जी ने प्रश्न वगैरह उसमें खड़ा किया था, उसी के साथ साथ में हमारा अमित सिन्हा जी भी बहुत ही काफ़ी डिटेल में सरकार की ओर से जो हमने जो कदम वगैरह उठाया गया था वो सारी चीज़ें इन डिटेल्स में उन्होंने बताया था कि पिछला 7 साल में जो सोलार के अंदर पर्टिकुलर रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी के अंदर जो सोलार जो भारत के अंदर काफ़ी पोटेंशियल है और इस सोलार एनर्जी के काफ़ी हम लोग प्रयास करके उसको अचीव करने के भी हमने प्रयास किया है। आप सभी अभी पिछला 7 साल से हम देख रहे हैं। तो अभी इससे पहले जो सोलार की थी, सोलार से एनर्जी लेने के लिए तो हमारा भारत के अंदर हमने गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया उसको एनकरेज भी किया है, लेकिन हम यहाँ पर एक सबका ध्यान आकर्षण करने के लिए मैं एक बात करता हूँ कि सोलार पैनल से लेकर के सारे उनका जितने भी प्रोडक्ट्स है हम लोग ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इंपोर्ट वगैरह करके हम खुद मैन्युफैक्चर कर नहीं पाए। इतना बड़ा देश के लिए इतना बड़ा स्कोप था, इतना बड़ा अपॉर्चुनिटी था, लेकिन देश के अंदर जितना हम लोग इंपोर्ट कर रहे थे उसका उस तरफ हम लोग ध्यान नहीं दे पाया, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग की ओर हम ध्यान नहीं दे पाया। ओनली इंपोर्ट करके ट्रेडिंग करके यहाँ पर सेटअप करके हमने एनर्जी प्रोड्यूस किया है। लेकिन अभी हमारा लक्ष्य भारत की जो आत्मनिर्भरता की जो मूल मंत्र है उसको लेकर के आत्मनिर्भरता के अंदर जो सिलिकॉन से पॉलीसिलिकॉन वेफर सेल और मॉड्यूल्स बनाने का अभी हम लोग ने अभी अमितेश जी ने तो बताया कि भारत सरकार उसको PLI स्कीम वगैरह लॉन्च करके करीब 4,500 करोड़ रुपया उसको हमने फंडिंग कर रहे हैं। तो अभी देश के अंदर पर्टिकुलरली जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर है वो थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इन्वेंशन वगैरह करके नया टेक्नोलॉजी वगैरह खुद यहाँ पर उसको अडॉप्ट करके जो ये सारे जितने भी हमारा मॉडल्स है सेल्स है यहाँ पर मैन्युफैक्चर करके हमारा जो पोटेंशियल है 15 आज के दिन में जो 15 गीगावाट है उसको अमित जी ने बोला कि नेक्स्ट ईयर से हम लोग करीब 35 गीगावाट का उसको प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी वगैरह बढ़ा के कि आत्मनिर्भरता और हम लोग बढ़े। हमारा जो प्रधानमंत्री जी का 2030 तक रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी के अंदर करीब 450 गीगावाट की जो हमारा लक्ष्य है उसी के अंदर मैं मानता हूं कि 2/3 ऑफ दैट एनर्जी शुड प्रोड्यूस फ्रॉम द सोलार। तो देश के अंदर आने वाला करीब 9 साल के अंदर इतना बड़ा स्कोप है ये सोलार के लिए। तो देश के जितने भी बड़े बड़े बिजनेस हाउसेस है या इंडस्ट्रियल हाउसेस है वो इसके अंदर ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा रुचि करके देश इसके अंदर आत्मनिर्भरता हो और 450 गीगावाट के अंदर जो 2/3 पावर फ्रॉम सोलार है ये इसका भागीदार मतलब कंट्रीब्यूशन ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इसमें हो। और मोदी जी सरकार तो आप जानते हैं बिल्कुल हर क्षेत्र का, हर इंसान का, हर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का समस्या भी सुनती है और उनका एडवाइस भी सुनती है और उसी इकोसिस्टम बनाने के लिए 360 डिग्री में सोच करके उन समस्याओं को एड्रेस करने के लिए उनको एनकरेज भी करती है। यही तो कारण है आज देश के अंदर 7 साल से कई क्षेत्रों के अंदर हमने अचीव किया है, यही तो कारण है। तो पर्टिकुलरली प्रधानमंत्री जी भी इस सोलार के लिए जो आत्मनिर्भर बनाने के लिए वेफर सेल मॉडल्स वगैरह तो देश के अंदर जितना लोग मैन्युफैक्चर कर सकेंगे उतना कॉर्पोरेशन सरकार की ओर से मिलेगा। और एक हम पॉलिसी भी लेके आ रहे हैं अभी हम लोग, अमित जी ने बताया है कि इसी के लिए मैं सभी इंडस्ट्रीज और अशोकम का जो इकोसिस्टम बनाने के आज VC वगैरह कर लिया है। तो ये एक गवर्नमेंट का बहुत बड़ा इनिशिएटिव है, उसके लिए आप सभी भागीदार होकर के सभी के प्रयास से प्रधानमंत्री जी ने परसों 15 अगस्त को बताया सबका साथ सबका विकास सबका विश्वास और सबका प्रयास। आज सभी का प्रयास कि बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है इस सोलार इंडस्ट्रीज के अंदर कि आप सभी लोग ये प्रयास को लेकर के अच्छे रिजल्ट्स आएंगे ऐसा मैं उम्मीद करता हूं। और आप ये उम्मीद को भी आपने निश्चित रूप से सेटिस्फाई करेंगे और आने वाला 8-9 साल के अंदर भारत सोलर कहीं से भी हम लोग चाइना की हम लोग नाम निकालते हैं, कहीं से भी हमको बाहर से इंपोर्ट न हो, ये हमारा लक्ष्य रहे। यही आपको विनती करते हुए इस कार्यक्रम में मेरे को भाग लेने का जो अवकाश दिया है, आप सभी को मेरा धन्यवाद। और दीपक जी ने बताया कर्नाटक से खास करके और बीदर का जो खाना उना के भी उन्होंने जिक्र किया। दीपक जी आप और मेरे साथ में एक बार चलिए बीदर को, सभी लोग, सभी की जो भी हमारा कर्नाटक में खाना मिलेगा वो आपको मैं खाना खिलाऊंगा। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू सो मच मंत्री महोदय, आपका हौसला अफजाई और encouragement is only what the industry needs. I think it is extremely important and ये invitation आपका मैंने रख लिया साहब, next time जब भी आप उधर होंगे तो मैं आपको वहाँ पे आके जरूर मिलूंगा. That is something for certain. Thank you so much, sir. So what we're doing now is, sir, I'm going to request Kishore ji hai, we have a lot of industry here, so they would like to have a small interaction, and I'm going to request Kishore ji to moderate that. And Amitesh ji, I would request you to be present as well. Time permits, there will be certain questions, certain suggestions that could come through. So maybe another 15 minutes is what I would request from both of you. Thank you very much. And Kishore ji, over to you.
Thank you, Deepak ji, and thank you and good evening, Honorable Minister Sir. I would say that solar is the most happening sector in the country, not only in the country, probably in the world. And the inspiration to the solar sector or taking India to the solar map is none other than Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji. He started the solar revolution in the year 2010 with the Gujarat Solar Park. And anybody, I mean, he understands the basics of investment and the industry. If you want to attract people to invest into the country or into any sector, you need to provide with the required ecosystem and with the required incentives. He came with a solar tariff of 15 rupees in the year 2010, and he always think in a big scale. He had a plan for 900 megawatt of solar park in the country, and that is where the starting of the solar revolution in the country. And after that, the National Solar Mission came, and the National Solar Mission, the capacity of the projects were in the range of 5 megawatt. And I was fortunate to be part of the first 5 megawatt project commissioned under the National Solar Mission. And today, with the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, we are developing a project of 1400 megawatt by a single developer at a single location in the Rajasthan. And that is what we as an industry is looking for. What we need and how the government is supporting the industry with the enabling policies. That is something what we are looking as an industry from the government. And we are fortunate to have the visionary leaders like you and the MNRE and the Honorable Prime Minister to support us to make it happen. Last 10 years, there were a lot of discussions in supporting the manufacturing in the country. And like Amitesh ji said that there were a lot of policy initiatives which came up, but finally we are fortunate to have a firm policy with a long outlook and with a definitive plan for people to invest into the manufacturing sector. And that is the reason that we are seeing today a lot of investment and a lot of interest is happening in the manufacturing sector. One of the reasons why this got slightly probably delayed in supporting the manufacturing was the high tariff in the country from the renewable sources. And today with the renewable sources, the tariff has probably bottomed out, and we are having the solar energy tariff at 2 rupees. And this is the right time that Government of India has come up with the policies to support the manufacturing sector, where even if at the cost of slight increase in the tariff, government is very firm in supporting the manufacturing sector. And that is the reason that most of the solar developers have also got into the manufacturing in the country. Today we have got few industry veterans in this sector, and we would like to hear out from each of those people. We have got people coming from the manufacturers. We have already existing manufacturers. We also have got people who are the IPP developers who are venturing into the manufacturing. And it is all the more important that it is not only manufacturing of solar cell or module or the backward integration going up to the silica, but we also need to create the ecosystem for all the ancillary industries to support the manufacturing of the solar modules. The end product is ultimately solar modules. So we have got a long list of people who are representing various industry sectors, the hardcore manufacturers of solar cells, modules, or ingots, and going back to the glass or aluminum frames or even backsheet and all those things. So I know that we have got a very limited time for discussions and deliberations. I would request all the speakers to maybe limit to maximum 5 minutes. Be very crisp and concise, to the point, what you would expect from the government of India. Now we have got the Honorable Minister and Amitesh ji, who is the, I can say, who is the best promoter of solar industry in the country today, and he had been very kind enough to accept various suggestions given by the ministry, and he could come out with a lot of support for accepting and implementing the policy initiatives or the suggestions which was given by the ministry. So let me start with Mr. Ramesh Nair, who is the CEO of Adani Solar. Ramesh, over to you, please.
Hello.
Thank you, Kishore. Thank you, ASSOCHAM, for this opportunity.
Yes.
And good afternoon, good evening to the Honorable Minister and Amitesh ji.
Sir, may I just interrupt you for a moment? I got the call from Minister's office. He's muted. So, ECON team, please unmute Honorable Minister. Please unmute Honorable Minister. Yes, sir. Please go ahead, Ramesh.
Yes, so I think lot has been said about solar, and I agree with all the viewpoints. Last 2 years has been very exciting for the solar industry, and a lot of work has been done from the MNRE, definitely in terms of furthering the manufacturing side of it. MNRE always had a Hobson's choice of actually focusing on development and manufacturing and making more successful. And it was a tightrope walk being done. And it is to the credit of the ministry that they have been able to further both development, touching about overall renewable development, about 100 gigawatts has been touched about a couple of days back. Plus now manufacturing is poised to take off, especially on the solar side. So yeah, as we see, we have about 4 gigawatts of cell and about 10 gigawatts of modules, 10 to 15 gigawatts of modules, which would definitely double in the next 2.5 years with the kind of focus that is seen by the ministry. The various schemes like ALMM, BCD has been really forthcoming, and it's most important that a government that we go ahead with the schemes and ensure that there is a continuity of policy, because most important for a manufacturer when he invests capital is that the policy frameworks remain steady for a reasonable period of time. And what has been committed remains, so that people have already started investing, looking at the various DCR schemes, looking at the BCD framework, looking at ALMM, and the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative by the Honorable Prime Minister. The investment cycle has already started in the solar manufacturing, and it's most important to have this for a very long period of time, a very steady policy network and environment which is stable, and so that there is a impetus on this.
That's all. Done.
Kavita, yeah. As we say, when we talk about solar manufacturing with a 450 gigawatt renewable capacity by 2030, out of which 300, we are talking about something like 25 to 26 gigawatts of solar capacity being added in the country. So there is enough room, and there is a lot of activity that needs to be done at this point of time to make it happen. As a group, we have about 1.5 gigawatts of solar capacity in our EMC of cell and modules both, along with a fully integrated ancillary network of EVA backsheet by our ancillary partners, and also glass and frame. Glass is in progress, frame is going on. We are expanding our cell and module capacity to something like about by 2 gigawatts. So we've reached about 3.5 gigawatts by somewhere Q1 of next year. And solar is also about the various ancillaries, that is glass, POE, backsheet, copper interconnects. So there is a room for all these ancillaries also to progress substantially as we improve this capacity, as we go up this capacity. And it's important that the government also incentivizes these industries so that they also grow. And obviously, the care has to be taken that there is no inverted duty structure in the process, but then there can be an escalated duty structure which can be in tandem with the overall duty structure of modules and cells. So exciting times, definitely a sunrise industry for us, and it looks like India could become an export hub for solar modules and cells in the next about 3-4 years to come. The PLI scheme is also very exciting. A lot of companies are looking at it with a lot of optimism. There is an outlay of about 4,500 crore for PLI scheme, which I feel is little insufficient for the solar industry. We have made demand that it should be increased to at least 9,000 crore, which I think there are favorable wind from the ministry on that, depending upon how many bids come in the PLI. So we look forward to that also. So with that, sir, I close my comments. And thank you for this opportunity. Over to Kishore.
Thank you, Ramesh.
Sir, I would request everybody to just take 2 minutes of time to put your viewpoint because Minister Sir has other scheduled meeting, even Amitesh Sir has other scheduled meeting. This is the request.
Okay, thank you, Kavita. Wadi has been one of the oldest solar manufacturer in the country, and Hitesh Bhai is here as the CMD of Wadi Energy. Over to you, Hitesh Bhai.
Good afternoon, Honorable Ministers and Amitesh ji and all the speakers and audience. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I think as a manufacturer, we are very happy what we have been asking for last 10 years to focus on Indian manufacturing has started coming in, and we are seeing a light of a day. Since the time is limited and I want to allow my other colleagues also to give their opinion. On this platform, sir, what we would like to request is that a lot of things are coming from the April next year. And at present, for last 2 months, the Indian manufacturers do not have any business. And we see that it will continue for another 8 to 9 months. So certain things, if they can be implemented to continue the present production facilities in India, some of them which we have requested is to implement the ALMM, which is a non-tariff barrier, and if this can be implemented immediately and strongly, I'm sure the Indian manufacturers will have some good business. The other support for the industry is to get some export benefit. To compete with China in the world market is becoming a more and more difficult day by day, sir. We all the manufacturers were having a good market internationally, but it's going slowly out of the hand. And there were benefits earlier around 4%, which is not there today. And we know that the duties and other things, if they get implemented from the 1st April, this will continue. The manufacturer like us, today, sir, we have a 2 gigawatt of the module manufacturing capacity. Our additional 3 gigawatt capacity is going to be operational in next 60 days, sir. So it will become a 5 gigawatt module capacity. And the sales side, we are planning to invest around a 4 gigawatt. Out of that, 1.5 gigawatt is going to be operational in the next year, first quarter, sir. So the most challenging time we are facing post-COVID to continue the operation. And after that, there is no business for 8 to 9 months. This is going to be a very difficult period for all the manufacturers. So this is only a short request from our side. Thank you. Thanks for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, Hitesh Bhai. Next, we are moving into the IPPs who have taken, have stepped into the module manufacturing with the enabling policies by the government of India. Let me first invite Ivan Shah from who is a CTO from Renew Power. Ivan.
Yeah, thanks, Kishore, and thank you everyone for present here. Minister Saab, thank you very much for gracing this occasion and for the opportunity to ASSOCHAM for us to participate in this forum. Yeah, so as Kishore said, I mean, Renew Power, we have been a developer with the largest renewable energy asset portfolio in the country today, slightly over 10 gigawatt existing assets as well as under construction asset. And right now we are poised to get into manufacturing. So thanks to MNRE and the government of India and Modi ji's vision, I think, as Hitesh Bhai said very clearly that whatever the industry wanted, the manufacturers wanted for the last 10 years, has now been laid out very clearly as a goal in front of the country, and people who are getting into manufacturing now or existing manufacturers, for the next 1 to 1.5 years, the focus would be on execution. The time of talking is over. It's now execute and set up this capacity in the fastest, quickest, and most efficient way that is possible. I think in the interest of time, for the other speakers on this, I would just add a couple of points. One is, if this country can produce solar energy at slightly over 2 rupees a unit, which is almost the same price at which any kind of energy is required for producing polysilicon or wafer in the country. I think backward integration into polysilicon and wafer is the only way that we can protect the value chain. Therefore, anywhere between 1.5 rupees to 2 rupees, if power is made available, and one thought that crossed our minds is, when we can generate renewable energy at such prices, why can't we bank it? Why can't we bank this energy? If there is a policy around banking of energy, and this energy can be available for manufacturers, I think then we have the solution to have very cheap power for running this large power-hungry polysilicon and wafer plants. Apart from this, I think another important point which needs to be considered is, like what we have already, MNRD has promoted, large solar plants for development on the development scale. The similar concept has to be probably implemented on the manufacturing scale, where you have clusters made. So a module manufacturing plant with the cluster of all the ancillaries industries like EVA, backsheet, etc., can go a long way in reducing freight cost, making available raw materials at the disposal of the manufacturers, and overall helping to reduce the cost of production. But all said and done, I think MNRE really deserves a lot of credit for bringing about policies like ALMM, BCD, and now PLI, and with which I think all the manufacturers now are looking positively towards manufacturing, and suddenly it is becoming a very, very interesting area to get into for us developers like us, Renew Power. And we hope to successfully be established as a manufacturer as well, besides being the largest developer. And in the next 1.5 to 2 years, I think there's a lot of such commercial players who will get into this field.
In view of the time available, may I request?
Yeah, thank you. I have just, that was my closing remarks. Handing back to Kishore. Thanks, Kishore.
Thank you, Ivan. I think one of the most important factor what you talked about is the backward integration, because today the focus is mostly on cell and module. It is very critical that we look at the backward integration, and we have the manufacturing facilities set up from silica to module. That is, I think, most critical. We have got the next speaker coming from Avada Energy, which is another large developer in the country. We have got Vinu George, who is the CEO of Avada Semiconductors. Vinu George, please.
Thank you, Kishore. A very hearty welcome. Good evening to the Honorable Minister and the distinguished guests. Due to the paucity of time, I don't want to get into too many details, but the fact remains that all the steps initiated by the government to promote Atmanirbhar Bharat, including the PLI scheme, the implementation of ALMM, the BCD scheme, I'm sure will go a long way now to actually give a fillip to the manufacturing exercise in India. And we are also, as a developer, we are now trying to get into manufacturing. We want to create a totally integrated polysilicon to module line, and we are working towards that. One of the things that I had to say was on the basic customs duty that has been announced. As a developer, I would like to request that the government should seriously continue with the projects that they have taken in the meantime. And one more request which I would like to make is basically how to make energy cheaper for manufacturers who are getting into the business of polysilicon and wafers. It should be to allow and incentivize manufacturers to set up captive power plants. They should be provided exemption from open access charges, from wheeling and transmission charges, and banking should be permitted. So that this will go a long way in reducing the power cost and making those processes viable. For paucity of time, I do not want to get into too many details. I thank you for the opportunity given to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinu. You had the one perspective of Hidesh Bhai to not to extend this, and your perspective as a developer is to extend the dates. Anyway, these are two different views. I think MNRE will take a balanced view. And that's a good suggestion from your side on incentivizing or promoting the captive projects for the manufacturing. Amitesh, you also mentioned about that point. I think that is very critical, that in order to make the solar manufacturing cheaper, it is essential that the energy charges should be the minimum possible with the support of solar. Now we are moving to the ancillary industries. Glass is a very critical component for manufacturing of solar modules, and we have got Mr. Khuba from Borosil, which is the largest glass manufacturer in the country. Over to you, Mr. Khuba, who is the Vice Chairman of Borosil, India.
Thank you, Kishore. Pranam, Mantri Sahab. Thank you, sir, for having invited us to give a chance to talk to you. First of all, I want to give thanks to the Ministry of Renewable Energy, who have done an excellent work in promoting manufacturing in India. Having said that, and to save time, I would just like to talk a little bit about my own industry, which is glass. Now, we are using natural gas, sir. Natural gas is required to melt sand and convert it into glass. Natural gas is quite expensive for us, and people with whom we are forced to compete, like Malaysia, they are getting natural gas at a 20% discount or a subsidy of 20% over the international price. Whereas as far as we are concerned, we not only have to pay the international price, but we also have to obviously pay the charges of GAIL. So transportation charge, storage charge, gasification charge, and all different kinds of charge, and then 6% GST on that. And so the price of gas for us is a good 30, 35, 40% higher than the price at which the competition gets it. And this makes it a big problem for us. So as we have been discussing regarding electricity, I would just request that for natural gas also, we should come up with a suitable scheme so that we are spared all these additional costs and we can find some means of getting this very important component of production at the right price. So, sir, this was one point that I wanted to say. Regarding electricity, of course, it is strange that we are making the products which are going to deliver electricity at 2 rupees per kilowatt hour to the Indian consumer, but we are ourselves paying 8 rupees per kilowatt hour in order to reach 2 rupees. So that is a little bit unfortunate. Now, everybody has talked about it, so I will not labor on that point. The second point, one of the speakers has said over here, which I will say very firmly based on the fact that we have a strong export section. We have very good connections with module manufacturers around the world. Today, sir, the day is ripe for India to become an export hub. Believe me, sir, we are talking of 25 gigawatts of production capacity in the country to service Indian production. I'm saying we should have 50 gigawatts because you will need 25 gigawatts at least to service the rest of the world. The point I'm referring to specially is that my interaction with all the foreign customers is showing there's a very definite bias towards importing from India, provided the price is competitive. Now, sir, we are very competitive in terms of the cost of production in the sense of cost of inputs. But when the cost of inputs is 3 times, 4 times the price of the cost of inputs in other countries, naturally, we cannot be price competitive. Secondly, we all know that the Chinese are doing a lot of subsidization of all the things that they export. So I would very strongly request that if the government were to open their minds to thinking about subsidizing exports of solar modules and cells to the point that it is competitive with China. After thorough study, I think it's a very strong thing if we do, we will be able to increase our exports by 20, $30 billion every year. And I'm saying with all responsibility and seriousness, sir, I've been in business for more than 50 years in my own business, and by God's grace, we have been able to come so far. And all the gentlemen sitting over here you'll find they'll be quadrupling the capacity if we come up with an export policy which is very strong, very firm, and which we are able to work and compete with the Chinese. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pradeep ji. Your previous speaker talked about giving power through the open access at 2 rupees. I think you should explore the options of going into the captive route for getting. While Amits ji joins, let me, sir, with your permission, can I go to the next speaker? We have got Mr. Avinash Hiranandani from the Renewsys. Avinash ji, please. Okay, while he joins back, let me move on to the next speaker, Mr. Akshat Doshi from Vishakha Renewables, please. Akshat, please.
Thank you, Kishore ji. Sir, first of all, we really thank all of you to invite the actual stakeholders here. Because we are, I don't know, sir. The whole conversation has happened focusing too much on polysilicon, wafer cells and modules. But this is the first time there's a focused discussion happening on the other ancillaries. And sir, we Vishakha Group, we are actually the largest EVA manufacturers in the country with a 2 gigawatt facility. We are the largest backsheet manufacturers with a 2.7 gigawatt facility. We have also just started our operations for aluminum frames with a 1 gigawatt facility. And sir, we have announced our glass project where the construction has already begun, and we are building the largest furnace, for the Indian market, which is in phase 1. And for all our businesses, we intend to go to 10 gigawatt levels of all ancillaries. So, sir, with all due respect, we are one of the one-stop solution for all the major ancillaries. Sir, not taking time. Very crisp point is all we require is, see, the demand is already there, so we don't want any kind of subsidies or anything. Sir, frankly, the business is there. And we have to accept that it's a market dynamics and we will have to compete over there. All we are, requesting you is just ease up some funds to expand and take the manufacturing to a particular level. Sir, in China, the largest EVA manufacturer is 60 gigawatts. And us being the largest manufacturer in India, we are just 2 gigawatts. So I'm sure you can just see the scale difference over here. So just a very quick request is that, sir, if you can just increase the basic custom duty on the products. There is a notification based on which the import duty on all the ancillaries becomes 0, which is hurting the development of ancillary manufacturing in India. So there is a duty structure about 8%, 10%, which is very minimal. But the annexure, there's a notification, and if based on that notification, the duty becomes 0%. So we just request amendment in that. Just pass on the same duty structure of 40%, which is going to be on module and cells coming first April. Just pass on the same duty, all the ancillaries. That's one request, sir. And sir, just the funding. Sir, if bankers view us, if the bankers can view us in a positive way and just fund major expansions, I think these are just two basic points, sir. And sir, thoda sa funding support ho jayega. I'm sure market dynamics itself will play its role, and government might not need to spend major money in terms of developing.
Thank you, Akshat. Thank you, Akshat. And first we are hearing that we don't need any subsidy, but your request is for increasing the import duty on the products to be more competitive. That's a good suggestion, I would say. Let me go back to Mr. Avinash Hiranandani, CEO and Managing Director of Innosis. Can I invite Mr. Avinash Hiranandani, the CEO and Managing Director of Renewables, please?
Avinash sir, while we'll come back to you for assistance. In the meanwhile, Kishore
Okay.
sir, you can call.
Yeah, let me go back to Mr. Rajiv Bhatnagar, who is the Executive Director, Corporate Strategy and Management from BHEL. BHEL is one of the oldest module manufacturers in the country, and a lot of emphasis. Minister also talked about public sector taking the lead. Sir, over to you, Mr. Bhatnagar.
Thank
Your
you.
plan for module manufacturing in India and leading the module manufacturing revolution and the R&D sector. Of course, public sectors can always spend a lot of money on R&D, which is an area which lacks investment in the country, as Saurabh said in the beginning. So we would look forward to your suggestions and strategy plans for more R&D in the manufacturing sector, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Honorable Minister, sir, all the officials from ASSOCHAM and all the respected speakers of the day. It has really been a very learning experience for me today to be in this session. Sir, without taking much time, I'll just quickly, in half a minute, take you through what BHEL had been doing with regards to R&D and how it is going to impact the entire ecosystem in future. So, though currently we are just having a very small capacity of about 105 megawatt in cells and about 226 megawatt in modules, but we have already executed projects more than 1.2 gigawatt. Now, what is most important here is that, world over, we have seen right at the beginning that China has been dictating the technology. So I'll only focus on the technology part. They started with the initially higher efficiency monocrystalline silicon solar products were there, and while India at that point of time they were still gearing towards polycrystalline products. So there always had been a lag. They had been moving forward much faster. In fact, their entire strategy is in such a way to control the market that they had been changing all the parameters of these cells. Now, we had seen the wafer format of G1 158.75 mm by 158.75, which is now expected to disappear by 2025. Then they'll be moving towards M6, that is 166 by 166, or to M10. Now, all this is going to have a lot of impact on the cell lines. Of course, module line is little agnostic to it. Nevertheless, if somebody is setting up a line, they will have to keep in mind that by the time they do this investment is you're able to recover that in a reasonable point of time. So now from this emanates the research work, the R&D part also. Well, at BHEL, we had been spending a lot of time and money and energy into R&D. We have two setups, one at Bangalore, another one at Gurgaon, Delhi, NCR portion. So we have a lot of work which is going on, and we are spending good about 2.5% of the overall revenues on R&D. But the challenge here is this only, that whatever work that we have been doing in increasing the efficiency of the PERC cells, making it up to 21%. The challenge is that if we keep on spending more money on it, this homegrown technology, unless until we get an assurance from the government by way of some mechanism, the way we have this ALMM coming in, unless until we are able to retrieve this investment in this technology, it will be very difficult for any of the players in Indian market to invest in it. So there has to be a kind of assurance or some kind of a policy which can give us a little sustainability for entering into this. So these are something which is very, very important. Now going back to what MNRE has now coming out with the PLI. So my only request is that since he has already mentioned our name and we are very keen and we are joining hands probably with some of the PSUs, I would only say that since there is a need at a national level that this renewable energy becomes a major player for the energy transition and energy security, probably it will be a very good idea that we also propagate that all those who are probably missing out on PLI scheme as and when this scheme is announced and the scheme is evaluated on bucket filling method, that others also still feel involved and engaged, some kind of mechanism by virtue of which they feel that yes, they can also contribute in one way or another. Maybe that is what we would be looking forward to. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bhatnagar, and we look forward to BHEL taking the lead in R&D sector in India and beating Chinese, and we look forward to BHEL getting into conversion from silica to module and also on perovskites and all these new areas. We would look forward to BHEL. I'm not too sure Mr. Hiranandani is available or not. I don't see his name.
He's finding it difficult because he was joining from South Africa, and because of some issue he's unable to connect now. So
okay, thank you, Kavita. Sir, with this we have concluded the discussions and the suggestions from various industry leaders, and ASSOCHAM was had taken the initiative in bringing all the major sectors in the industry, from the existing module manufacturers to new IPP companies who are entering into the module and module manufacturing, and also we have brought in all the ancillary industries, and it's very nice to hear about the suggestions from the industry from various aspects. I do not want to repeat those suggestions. What we will do is that we will consolidate all these suggestions, and ASSOCHAM will be sending the consolidated recommendations to you, sir. And on behalf of Avada Energy, where I am the CEO of Avada Energy, and on behalf of the ASSOCHAM, where I am the co-chair of the Renewable Energy Task Force, I wholeheartedly appreciate the time that you have spent with us and guiding and taking the industry forward and making India as a self-sufficient, self-reliant manufacturing nation. And we look forward to more support and guidance from you. Thank you for your time, sir, and thank you for accepting ASSOCHAM's invitation. Thank you, sir. And Amitesh ji, you had been the leader in giving all support to us with all policy initiatives, and we really thank you very much for your presence and your guidance and accepting all our suggestions. Thank you very much from ASSOCHAM for your presence and guidance and all support that you have provided to the industry. And thank you, ASSOCHAM.
Yes, sir.
ASSOCHAM for making this happening.
Sir, Amitesh ji just called and he wanted to, he informed that he had some other meeting, but he has joined very gracefully, sir. Last word from him, Bhagwant sir, he was calling out his name, so I just called up his honors and he has joined. Anything that you wish to say? Honorable Minister, would you like to have, you wanted to say something to Amitesh sir, he has joined.
I think Minister
we'll
has
consolidate all our recommendations and share it with your office.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for all the participants for your valuable suggestions and taking time for speaking on behalf of ASSOCHAM for this meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you,
Vinay ji, for your continued presence throughout the meeting also.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.